Alright everyone, so I'm going to show you how to do the bird's eye view in 1-point perspective. So you're going to need your pencil, an eraser, and of course a ruler. So in my previous video I showed you how to do 1-point perspective at the eye level. So we see the faces, we see like the front of our buildings. So in the bird's eye view, we're actually on top, so we're viewing from above. So in the eye level 1-point perspective, the first thing we always do is we draw a horizon line. So in the bird's eye view, we don't need to do that because we're viewing from above. So we're looking at the tops of all of our buildings. So the first thing we want to start off with is our vanishing point. So you can put it towards the center. I put mine in the middle of my paper. And then you can go ahead and start drawing out the shapes of your buildings. So for time purposes, I went ahead and I sped up my video. But as you can see, I'm just drawing squares or a square. Use your ruler and make sure that your lines are nice and straight and even. They don't have to measure like super specific measurements. But when we draw our shape, this becomes the top of our building, not the side, not the front, but the top. And then just like the 1-point perspective, we have to connect our shape to our vanishing point using vanishing lines. And since this is the top of our building, this then becomes the side. So even though it's still the side, we don't want to make it too short. We don't want to put it too close to our vanishing point, so we kind of cut it off a little bit farther to the left of our vanishing point, and this is our side of our building. So you can kind of see it kind of looks like it's like standing up. So I went ahead and I drew a vertical line at the bottom of my building. It is not our horizon line, this is actually the street line. Okay, so I'm drawing my second building here. Again, it's just simple shapes, rectangles, squares. If you do the triangles, it gets a little bit more complicated. So try to stick to like the rectangles and the squares. Orientation of your rectangle or square doesn't really matter, so long as everything connects to your vanishing point. So again, top of my second building here, connecting all of my corners down to my vanishing point. Make sure that you are not drawing too hard, you're not putting too much pressure, because what's going to end up happening is you have to erase a bunch of these lines. So here you can see that this is the bottom of my building because it lines up with my street line, so I just kind of made it darker so that we could see it. And then from that point we have to make a parallel line to the top of our building, to that bottom line. So I just went ahead and I drew a parallel line here. And then of course, the rest of the vanishing lines that are outside my building, I went ahead and I erased it. You can use the big eraser if you want to. I chose to use my little one on my pencil, only because my space was very small. Okay, so I'm going to draw the street line again here. Again, bird's eye view, your streets kind of get all over the place, so try to keep track of which ones are your streets and which ones are your buildings. So I label all of my sides and all of my buildings while I'm doing these videos. You don't have to. Okay, and also be aware that first building I was showing you, we don't see two sides of that building because the top of that square is kind of lined up with our vanishing point. So if you have any of your shapes that are too close or like too aligned with your vanishing point, you're not going to be able to see more than one side. So here's my third building, top of my third building, and again, connecting all of my points to that vanishing point, using vanishing lines, making sure my ruler stays nice and steady, keeping my ruler firm on the paper so that it doesn't move while I draw my line. And then I go ahead and I draw in my parallel lines to show where the bottom of my building is. Okay, so this is the side, this is the side also, another parallel line. Remember, these parallel lines are parallel to the edges of your original square, your original shape. Okay, so just like this one, I'm going to show you how to create the illusion of buildings that are right next to each other. Since we're viewing all of our buildings from the very top, we're not going to be drawing them like in different angles. Everything's going to be flat. So I'm going to draw another rectangle that kind of connects to this first building. So again, unaware of myself, I drew outside of the view of the camera, but as you can see, I'm just kind of creating that elongated rectangle that goes down towards my paper. Okay, notice I didn't draw all the way through. I didn't create an entire rectangle. I just kind of stopped my lines where that next building was. So this building is actually going to be shorter than the building next to it. Okay, connected it to the vanishing point. Erased what was on the outside of my building and outside of my street, and then that then becomes the side of my building. Okay, so I'm going to do another one here on this side with this last one. Here I'm going to slow down the video just a little bit because it gets kind of tricky. So again, we're drawing the top of our building, so we're going to pick a spot. I kind of picked it towards the top of this first one, but not like the same level. We can see like a little bit of a difference, so one's a little bit shorter than the other. And then you go ahead and finish like the square of the top of your building. So we connect it through the top of our square, and then we connect it all the way back to the side of our first building that's here. This angled line, not the top of your square, but the angled line. Okay, but as you can see, it kind of looks a little weird. The lines aren't exactly the same, so our perspective's not there. One of these lines is wrong, so we need to create a parallel line to the top of this square at the bottom of the second one. So it's going to be really thin, it's going to be kind of hard to see, but it has to be a parallel line. And that parallel line has to continue all the way to the edge of that building. So as you can see, there's a little bit of a space where my line, I drew it off. I didn't draw it in the right spot, which is fine. We just take this vertical line and we have to move it over to the front or the side of this first building. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to draw that line. I'm going to connect the top of this square all the way across, so that way it's a full square. And then I'm going to go ahead and erase what's on the inside. So I'm going to erase my first line that I drew so I don't get confused. Erase the horizon line that's inside of it. Erase the parts of that first building that are inside of this top part. And then of course that other little piece that I messed up on. Okay, so now we can see that it kind of comes down, and then this building is shorter. So the next thing I gotta do is just connect this building to my vanishing point. One side's already connected because it shares that line with that first building. And then I show you where the bottom is, where this street is. And then I erase everything else that's on the outside. Okay. So as you can see, we've got a couple of lines we need to erase. Make sure you erase all the lines that need to be erased and that you're not leaving lines that are not supposed to be there. That's why, again, you need to make sure you draw nice and light so that way you can erase your lines completely. I kind of drew a little bit harder with my pencil so that way the video would be able to show all of my lines. And that's pretty much it. So just keep in mind anything that you draw needs to be connected to the vanishing point. Hope you liked it. Subscribe,